In their mastery of the air, many of the world's birds of prey are experts in soaring and gliding. But few can match the skill and majesty of the eagles, like this Australian wedge-tailed eagle, one of the world's largest birds of prey. The world's smallest eagle is the little eagle. With a wingspan of just over a metre. It's also expert at soaring. It's found throughout almost all the Australian continent and also in New Guinea. The unique black-breasted buzzard is another bird of prey well adapted to soaring. The rarest of these three birds, it's found thinly scattered over central and northern Australia. Its most recognisable features are the distinctive white windows at the base of its primary feathers. In Australia's arid inland, only dry creek beds and floodplains support enough large trees suitable for nesting. This seemingly inhospitable environment is home to all three of these soaring hunters. The black-breasted buzzard is probably the most intriguing. Because of its scarcity, little is known about its habits. It's thought to be an ancient member of the kite family, which, isolated in Australia, has evolved its own distinctive characteristics. Some of its unusual behaviour has been recorded for the first time in this film. This pair of buzzards are refurbishing last year's nest, and at this stage following routine procedures. Dry sticks are first collected from the ground. The female, by shuffling her body in the nest and tucking the twigs, creates a leaf-lined cavity in which to lay her eggs. Like most birds of prey, they share the job of nest building. During these 6 weeks or so, several times a day and with little formality, the male perches precariously with clenched fists on the female's back, and they mate. They regularly line the nest with fresh leaves, perhaps to provide moisture or repel insects. The black-breasted buzzard's habits become quite different from most other birds of prey at feeding time. Normally, the male bird of prey does the hunting and brings the food to or near the nest, then departs. Instead of leaving, the male buzzard calls softly in greeting to the incubating female and proceeds to feed her, piece by piece. For either of the adults to feed each other in this manner is very unusual. About 2 kilometers away, a pair of wedge-tailed eagles are nesting. The female is incubating her 2 eggs, laid 5 weeks ago, which will soon hatch. She periodically rolls the eggs to place them comfortably under her brood patch and to ensure that they are evenly incubated. While the female is sitting on the nest, the male does all the hunting. This could take him several kilometers or more away from the nest. Named after its distinctively shaped tail, the wedge-tailed eagle is found throughout Australia. With a wingspan of 2.5 meters, it's Australia's largest bird of prey. Australia's birds of prey are perhaps the only native fauna to have gained from an event which has been an ecological disaster for the rest of the continent. The devastation wrought by the introduction of the European rabbit has been most pronounced in the delicately balanced ecology of the arid inland. But for some birds of prey, they provide an abundant source of food. Eagles are thought to have eyesight 4 times more powerful than humans, capable of seeing a moving rabbit 4 kilometers away. It attempts to surprise its prey by approaching from behind a hill. Hearing the male's call, the female leaves to collect the prey. After 6 weeks of incubation, the wedge-tailed eagle's eggs hatch. The chick, using a special egg tooth on the front of its beak, cuts away an oval window. Its soft calls are answered by the female in encouragement. By rolling itself around inside the shell, it scratches a circular line with its tooth and cracks the shell open. Blind and wet, it struggles free. The second chick has also begun to crack its shell and should hatch in the next day or two. A few hours later, the chick is dry and its eyes are open. Tiny morsels of fresh meat are offered to it several times a day. The chick must be brooded almost constantly. During the first few weeks, it can't control its own body temperature and is vulnerable to predators such as crows. At the black-breasted buzzard's nest, the first of the 2 eggs has hatched. To avoid crushing the tiny chick and unhatched egg, the buzzard moves cautiously. But it changes its mind about brooding. Immediately, the other bird takes over, displaying another remarkable aspect of the buzzard's behavior. While other birds of prey usually have separate roles for hunting and brooding and feeding, these jobs seem completely interchangeable between the male and the female buzzard. Walking is relatively easy, thanks to their short, gently curved toes and talons, a feature they share with eagles. They scavenge on recently killed animals. They also kill rabbits, lizards, and other birds. They are notorious nest robbers, taking both eggs and chicks. The chick receives the tenderest portion of a goanna, whilst the parent eats the tough hind quarters, but not without some difficulty. He bunches his talons as he gingerly takes his turn at brooding the chick and the unhatched egg. At the wedge-tail's nest, the second chick is hatching, and the firstborn plays a major part in its fate. It pecks at the emerging wing. But it's not trying to help. Amongst eagles, the oldest chick can kill its younger sibling in what is known as the Cain and Abel struggle. The parent birds don't intervene in this test of survival of the fittest. This time, the youngest chick survives. The wedge-tail's thick toes and massive talons are capable of killing prey up to 4 times its own weight. The weight of the eagle and the speed of its attack causes its talons to automatically close around the neck of its prey, killing it swiftly. The large female wedge-tail is gentle and patient with her 2 tiny chicks. Along with the meat, they receive some of her saliva, which it's thought might transfer some immunity or beneficial bacteria to the chicks. Wedge-tails' nests are often 1.5 meters in diameter and over 1 meter deep. They usually have 2 or 3 within their territory from which to choose each breeding season. From the little eagle's clutch of 2 eggs, only the firstborn survives the Cain and Abel struggle, a common pattern with this species. The female goes in search of her mate, who's out hunting. She finds him clutching a rabbit, but with some competition. A black falcon is also interested in the rabbit. Piracy amongst birds of prey is quite common. The falcon will try to frighten the little eagle off by using spectacular high-speed dives. The little eagle can only defend by throwing himself backwards and striking with his talons. To do this, he has to momentarily release the rabbit. His much larger female partner moves in to help dissect the kill, after all the action's over. The female little eagle returns to the nest with some of the rabbit. In good seasons, when prey is plentiful, little eagles will often raise 2 chicks. The wedge-tailed eagle beautifully demonstrates the 2 main characteristics required for soaring flight. The first is its large wing area compared to its weight. The second is the large body size. This gives the bird sufficient momentum to carry it through small, erratic air currents without losing stability. On hot inland plains, air near the ground warms unevenly and rises in large bubbles. Eagles rise on the edge of these thermals, easily reaching heights of 2,000 meters. about 3 weeks, the wedge-tailed eagle's chicks have a thicker covering of down. The chick's ear is just behind its eye. Only a small hole is visible as they don't have an external ear. The eagle's hearing is thought to be about the same as humans. Nor do they have a strong sense of smell. For hunting, they rely on their powerful eyesight. Not all the wedge-tail's attacks are successful. More than half its intended prey escapes. This rabbit reaches its burrow safely. The male wedge-tailed eagle searches for another source of prey. The banks of a creek appear to offer a good prospect. But the water provides an escape route for the rabbit. At the black-breasted buzzard's nest, the female attacks the remains of a tough goanna. Their first chick is now about a month old. The second chick, 5 days younger than its sibling, is noticeably smaller. With summer approaching, the temperature is already above 30 degrees. The larger chick tucks itself under its mother to obtain shade. The male arrives, and again, in the unusual manner of the buzzards, intervenes by trying to feed the chicks himself. No such behavior is tolerated on the little eagle's nest. As soon as the male arrives with food, he is sent packing by the female. It's probably an instinctive, protective reaction towards her chicks. She twists her head sideways so that the chick's beak fits neatly between hers. At its new hunting ground, the wedge-tailed waits patiently. At this time of year, young rabbits become more plentiful. Eagles time their breeding so that their young fledge when there are maximum numbers of young rabbits available. Until quite recently, wedge-tailed eagles in Australia were persecuted as lamb killers. They are now protected in most Australian states and are generally recognised as doing more good as rabbit eaters and carrion clearers than harm as killers of livestock. The little eagle chick, at 5 weeks, is half feathered and will be ready to fly in another 3 weeks. Heavy rains have brought water flooding down the creek bed. The 2-month-old buzzard chicks have now reached their full size and fill the nest. A week later, the buzzard chicks have left the nest. They begin making their first flights. Takeoffs and landings are the hardest to master. When the young buzzard is experienced enough, it joins its parents and the other soaring birds of prey riding the thermals.